Welcome to Rivera Nation. My name is Julio Rivera. Well, this week marked the 1-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd while in police custody in Minneapolis. In the time since, America endured perhaps the longest extended period of civil disobedience in at least the last 50 years, as protests that were initially intended by many to be peaceful disintegrated into chaos and fiery violence that left dozens of Americans dead, while still not solving the root problem that many of the protesters came to speak out on in the first place: police reform. The past year also saw the police officer at the heart of the controversy, Derek Chauvin, be found guilty of second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter by a jury of his peers after just 10 hours of deliberation. Just this year, several new initiatives have sprung up to attempt to address what some call failures in policing. These initiatives include a flurry of bills that have popped up in the state of Oregon that are championed by Oregon State Representative Janelle Bynum, some of which would require police departments to ask applicants about their opinions on race and diverse cultures and then rigorously evaluate their answers, while others call on police to investigate potential gender-based hate crimes, require officers to report misconduct by colleagues, and train officers to perform CPR and call for emergency medics if someone suffers medical distress while restrained. On the national level, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina this week set a June or bust deadline on police reform talks, adding that, "I think we have 3 weeks in June to get this done." Scott's comment came after he declined to publicly embrace the May 25th unofficial deadline that came and went this week that had been pushed for by President Biden and top Democrats who had hoped to be able to announce a deal by the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's murder. Here to talk about it all, we welcome the host of RT America's News, Views, Hughes, Scotty Nell Hughes, and the president of the New York Young Republicans Club, Gavin Wax. Scotty, the issue of police reform tends to elicit a passionate response, no matter what side of the issue people may be on. Obviously, terrible policing contributed to the death of George Floyd, and there have been other examples of bad policing we've seen over the years. But in a country of well over 300 million, with over 1 million police officers and literally millions of interactions daily between police and private citizens, does America truly have a widespread problem with bad policing?
Well, Julio, no industry is perfect. I mean, hello, I'm in the media. I'm the last person to be criticizing any industry when we're talking about perfection. But in this case, there's always going to be a few rotten apples within any industry, especially something as volatile as law enforcement. But what has happened, what we've seen, is this is political pandering at its best, where politicians get on and they talk and they talk and they talk and they get people all riled up. And guess what? Those people probably turn out the polls. Those people think that they get involved. But when it comes down to it, even politicians know that is a very dangerous idea, dangerous road to go down in defunding the police and creating more chaos within the community. I mean, even in Washington, D.C., where I am, Julio, who I think has probably one of the most progressive mayors, short of New York. I'll give that one. I'll give that to Gavin. He might actually beat Muriel Bowser. But even she is not in any way taking a penny out of the budget of law enforcement, despite all of her rhetoric that she says, which just goes to the point of which party talks things and panders. But in the end, even they know the reality of defunding the police gives the criminal the opportunity while actually making the actual person who abides by the law more unsafe.
Absolutely, Scotty. And Gavin, to Scotty's point, we've seen this so-called defund the police movement grip America. But most of these efforts, as Scotty points out, will only lead to more dangerous conditions in big cities, won't it?
Yes, absolutely. I fully agree with Scotty, and I fully disagree with Senator Scott. We do not need this massive police reform movement. We need harsher penalties for criminals. We need to crack down on the rise in violent crime. I mean, this is a massive epidemic in this country that no one is talking about. The murder rate, the rates of assault, the rates of rape, every different index to measure crime has been skyrocketing in all of America's major cities. This is a result of the bail reform movement that's eliminated cash bail. It's a part of the defund the police movement that's stripped police departments of much needed resources. It's part of a variety of district attorney offices basically neglecting in their duties to prosecute crimes. So we're seeing just a breakdown of law and order, chaos on our streets, and it's just destroying national unity. It's hitting at the core of our nation's values, and we need to return to being both a party and a nation of laws. And we need to understand that. And as was discussed earlier, a few interactions out of millions a year with police do not represent an entire field of qualified professionals who are doing their jobs to keep our cities and streets safe.
Amen. I couldn't agree more. Now, I don't mean to laugh about this one, guys, but Atlanta Councilman Antonio Brown, who's actually a candidate to become the city's next mayor, was a victim of car thieves in broad daylight on Wednesday, according to reports. Atlanta, unfortunately, is currently dealing with this major surge in crime. And Brown, the councilman from Atlanta, has actually been a proponent of this recent defund the police movement that's grown in America since the death of George Floyd. In 2020, he actually voted for an ordinance that would withhold $73 million from the budget of the Atlanta Police Department. The ordinance actually, thankfully, was ultimately voted down. So Scotty, obviously less police, poorly funded police departments, what have you, would send a message to criminals that it's a lot easier to engage in crime. So how does that help?
Julio, I think you just answered your own question. I mean, it's a rhetorical question. It doesn't. Defunding the police is only going to enable and actually put the power back in the criminals' hands. But that is just the traditional hypocrisy that you learn to expect from the progressives, from those on the left, from the Democratic Party. I mean, you're talking about people who are saying defund the police, Nancy Pelosi, and yet she is actually putting more money in the Capitol budget, and she's had National Guard surrounding her workplace for the last 6 months. You talk about people that say, we don't need to secure our southern border, don't build a wall. But guess what? The majority of them all live behind gated communities. So this hypocrisy right now is being able to be spun, is being able to be sold to the American people. And just like what we saw in the past, that got Donald Trump elected in 2016, the American people are going to have to wake up. And they're having a very cold bucket of water thrown back into their faces and going, the politicians are literally living as not what they speak, but as they want to, and making the rest of us actually try to abide by the rules that they themselves aren't even abiding by.
Exactly. And at the top of that list is probably DHS head Alejandro Mayorkas, who claims we don't have a border crisis. But Gavin, in this case in Atlanta, would you expect Councilman Brown to maybe change his tune on the whole defunding the police thing in light of the fact that the car robbery that just took place this week?
Well, maybe he will be that shameless. I have no idea. It really depends if he wants to be openly a hypocrite or continue to toe the party line. But it is hilarious to watch that these left-wing politicians begin to reap what they sow. I think it's actually, it's karma in this regard. They deny to their own constituents their safety and security and law and order that they themselves would love in their own gated communities and in their own neighborhoods, as Scotty mentioned with Speaker Pelosi and all her antics on the Capitol. It just shows that there's a massive disconnect, and the whole Democrat platform is basically rules for thee, but not for me. They live safely, they live comfortably, they live in their gated communities, and everyone else, particularly in the inner cities, particularly in areas that are, minority majority neighborhoods in many inner cities, they're the ones who suffer the most under the scourge of crime, particularly from gangs and drugs and other vices of society. So it's the worst off in society who are going to continue to be worse off because of these policies, and those that already have a silver spoon in their mouth are going to continue to live just fine as they signal their virtue to everyone else about how great they are and how much they hate the police that they use so much.
Exactly. Politicians being hypocrites. What a concept. Listen, I want to thank you both for being here. Have a happy Memorial Day. That was Scotty Nell Hughes and Gavin Wax. Now stick with Rivera Nation. We have a lot more show coming up after the break.